report that started as a FoxNews.com exclusive. Stunning accusations that could shake things up in the Senate. A conservative Minnesota group now claims that convicted felons illegally placed votes in the Al Franken, Norm Coleman Senate standoff when it came to who was going to win that seat. John Fund is a columnist with the Wall Street Journal, and he works the election beat and did a lot of work on this Minnesota race. So the allegation exactly is what, John?
The Minnesota majority group went and looked at the criminal records in two counties, Minneapolis and St. Paul. They compared them with who had voted. They found 341 in Minneapolis, 52 in St. Paul, felons who weren't allowed to vote who did cast ballots.
So why is the assumption that those felons voted for Franken?
Well, first of all, there's two counties out of 87 in Minnesota. We have 85 more that we should look at.
Okay.
Secondly, academic studies, Northwestern University and several other places have shown that over time, felons usually vote about 85% Democratic. And in Florida, for example, about 75% of felons who register to vote register Democratic. So there's a suspicion there. The real problem is the Secretary of State, Mr. Ritchie in Minnesota. His job is to flag the felons and tell local officials you shouldn't allow these people to vote.
Right.
90% of these people were not flagged. Therefore, the local officials didn't know they were felons. They allowed them to vote. This is a dereliction of duty. If we had known about this during the recount, I think it could have affected history, because when Al Franken was sworn in, he became the 60th vote for the Democrats in the Senate, and he became the vote that allowed them to pass Obamacare.
Well, who is this Mr. Ritchie, and why didn't he flag the felons?
Well, Mr. Ritchie is a Democratic Secretary of State who, by the way, was the Acorn-supported candidate through a George Soros group for Secretary of State. And there have been a lot of accusations that he has not been particularly playing it on the level with regard to this race.
You know, I just had this debate with Kirsten Powers about allegations made by J. Christian Adams. And another allegation that he has made about the DOJ is that there has been a mandate issued by Julie Fernandez not to enforce that section of the law that requires the purging of ineligible voters from the voter rolls, saying we don't want to worry about that because it doesn't increase turnout.
Which would explain why when Minnesota majority took their complaint to the Justice Department, they never heard back.
You know, but they say that they took their complaint to the Justice Department November 2008 and then again October 2009. That would have been the Bush DOJ
right.
and the President Obama DOJ.
I think the problem in the Justice Department goes across administrations because the career employees of the Justice Department are very ideological. There's certain kinds of cases they like to bring, and there's certain kinds of cases they don't like to bring.
What, if anything, will this result in? Does this go anywhere?
Yes, because every state, not just Minnesota, has lots of felons who are ineligible to vote, but there's very little enforcement. Almost no one has been prosecuted on this. Washington State had a governor's race a few years ago decided by 131 votes. More than that number of felons voted illegally.
Now, well, we'll see. If, in fact, Christian Adams is right and they're not pursuing any cases to force the purging of the ineligible voters from the rolls, we'll probably see more cases like that.
Justice won't comment on this.
Nope.
They won't comment.
They won't comment on that specific allegation, other than they denied the earlier allegations by Christian Adams. John, thank you.